Okay, so I've been promising this video for a long time, but it's finally time for me to show you something very special. So these are my two compost bins. This is a kit I purchased off the internet, but in our previous house I actually designed and built my own composting system, which I called the Compostomatic 3000. I'm going to put some pictures of that ridiculous construction over the top of this video, but you can see this version is not anywhere near as fancy as that. It's just 2 bins instead of 3, but I decided this is probably sufficient for our needs. And this is the final result of what we end up with after all the composting is done. This is the best substance in the world. You can see how black that is. It's full of nutrients, all good stuff. So essentially this is the finished product after probably a couple of years of composting, maybe a year if I'm lucky. And this is nearly empty now because we've obviously been using it. I need to empty this because this one over here is currently completely full of fresh stuff which needs to be turned and moved over into this bin so that we can start the process all over again. So as you can see, this is completely full, and this is the problem because at the moment Kat is busy making a whole load more detritus to go into the top of it. So I'm going to have to move the compost over from this bin into the other bin once that's emptied, so that we can actually have some space that Kat can use. This is just some bits of fern you can see here that I pulled off of a fern the other week, and there's a layer of cardboard, and then underneath that you can see basically it's cut grass. So what I'm going to do, once I've taken off the sides here, I should be able to show you a sort of cross section of what's going on in there. We've basically been filling this up over the last year or so, and hopefully the stuff right at the bottom will be more or less good to use. So that will end up at the top of this bin so we can use it as and when, but all this fresh stuff will end up at the bottom of that bin, and we'll continue composting. And by the time we've got to another year or so into the future, all of it should be good and composted and ready to use. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that now. So I managed to get 3 almost full bags of compost out of that right hand side bin there. So you can see we've filled these up to about halfway, just so I don't strain my back when I'm lifting them. But let's have a look at the result of that work. So what I've done, I've gone down to almost the bottom there. I've left a thin layer just at the bottom so that there's a bit of a starter. You don't need to do that. You can have compost straight onto bare earth. That will work fine. The worms will find their way in. But you can see I've removed a couple of the slats that are separating the 2 bays, and you get a good view of the sort of layering that we've done here. So starting sort of near the bottom, you can see that's basically finished compost. But we've layered on basically chopped up bits of garden waste and kitchen waste, basically peelings and other stuff like that. And then further up you can see occasionally there's a layer or 2 of other bits and bobs in there, but most importantly at the top here is a layer of recently cut grass, and then on top of that I've just layered some corrugated cardboard. Now I'll do that all through the summer, so actually sort of somewhere down here it's all sort of composted now, but basically there's layers of cut grass followed by cardboard, and that's a really good mix because you need to separate the layers of cut grass with something that will provide a bit of carbon, because that will then give you a nice mix of carbon and nitrogen. So the grass gives you a lot of nitrogen and the cardboard gives you a bit of carbon, and then any other woody things, leaves and sticks and stuff, will also add a little bit of carbon into the mix. And you need that good mix, otherwise if you have too much nitrogen from like a big slab of cut grass, then it can turn all slimy and horrible. So yeah, you don't want that. Ideally what you'd do is you'd mix this every now and again, but honestly I can't be bothered, and it doesn't seem to be that much of a benefit to do that unless you really want your compost sort of super speeded in like 6 months or something. But if you're happy to wait a year or so, then this works pretty well. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to start at the top, and I'm going to just transfer all of that over into this bin. I'm going to replace the slats, and then Kat will have some space to put her stuff that she's been chopping out of the garden today. So I've just made a start of forking this compost over from one bin to the next, and I came across this nice little cluster of wiggly worms here. So these have just found their way in. You don't need to add these in or anything, they just find their way in, which is brilliant. And once they're in there, they'll do a great job of breaking everything down. But yeah, you can see actually now that I've removed the top layer, we've got a mix of all our sort of kitchen waste in there, you know, peelings and whatnot. And once it's all sort of moved over into this bin, I'll do a little bit of mixing as I go, so that the layers of grass and cardboard and everything else gets mixed in with all of the kitchen waste and leaves and other bits and bobs from the garden. So that all makes a lovely sort of uniform mass of stuff, so the worms can have a good old time munching on that and breaking it down. So I'm about 2/3 through now, and you can see that basically at this point the compost is almost ready. It's not quite. I'd definitely give this another few months, but by the time we need this will be definitely ready to go. So yeah, I'm going to carry on, and this will be pretty much full, I'm guessing, by the time I get to the end. Right, so that's taken me about half an hour to shift all that lot. It's quite tiring work, I've got to be honest. I've left another little layer at the bottom there, just so that when we put the new stuff in, it's got some worms in there ready to go. This is the stuff that Kat's been gathering from the garden, just doing a tidy up for the spring. And I've done a bit of chopping of this stuff just to break it down into slightly smaller pieces. It's not strictly necessary, but it just helps things progress a little bit quicker once it's actually in the compost bin. And so yeah, that's the basis of the composting process. And there's a few other little bits to show you, but I'll do that in a second. So no sooner have I put Kat's detritus in the compost, she's out here making more. Good job, we've got a nice big empty compost bin now for her to fill up. So we collect all our vegetable peelings in this little bin here, and when it's full I take it out to the outside bin, and you can see it's full right now, so I'm going to do that right now. So the final step of the process is to reset the little mini bin by putting a little bed of torn up cardboard and shreddings in there. So what I do is I take our used toilet rolls and egg boxes, and I tear those up into little bits, and I combine them with shredded receipts and other things, that basically stuff we want to get rid of, into this sort of reused Grolsch box from years and years ago. We've had this, and I just chuck a load of that into the bottom of the compost crock, and that forms a nice little sort of absorbent bed, so any juices and other stuff gets absorbed, and that also provides a little bit of carbon, as I mentioned before, that will mix in with all of the other kitchen waste to give you that nice mixture of stuff, so that all the little microbes and everything can get to work to start breaking that down, and then the worms can get to work on that stuff and finish off the process. So there you go, nothing too complicated really. It's not exactly rocket surgery, just chuck it all in the bin and let nature take its course. So yeah, that was a slightly different video from our usual content, so normal programming will be resumed shortly, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Lovely stuff.